So today we have a story about hair. One-way waterproof. I don't remember what that was about. I think it was about, I was talking about my shoes that, like, didn't waterproof properly from the outside, but when the water got in, it seemed to be unable to get out. Something along those lines. Forgotten passwords, mysterious lakes. And when I looked in my book for these subjects, I added myself drunken lyrics writing, because in my other notebook there were some lyrics. It was just like 2 lines, which were from the day that we went to see that gig in the city, and I accidentally got given several glasses of wine on an empty stomach and was quite drunk for really the first time in my life. So this poem that I'm going to start with has some of those actual words in it, which I think I'm being very brave to include because it's fairly embarrassing. It doesn't sound embarrassing though, they sound great, but very dramatic. I'm not sure they'd really be good lyrics. This is called Woven Vision, and it's just sort of about hair and water, because we're just trying to link the mysterious lakes and the hair. The waterfall of braiding round twisted fingers in your hair, like the tears that well over the crest of emotion and onward into the cycle, the endless cycle of the water, the veins that carry life, forever onward and airborne, and in our blood, the strands that hold it all, hold everything together. And now, the story has a very unusual title. It is called Nessy the Hair Monster and the One-Way Waterproof. I should say the story's a bit, it's one of those ones where you have to say any resemblance to persons, living or dead, is purely coincidental. The main character in this story has very colourful hair. She's not supposed to be Charmaine, she's just got cool hair because it's about hair. And there's also a television program referred to in this, which is not intended to resemble any real television programs. Not at all. Kim turned up the hot water, allowing the shower to splash down over her face and run off her long opal-coloured hair like a blue-green stalactite. Small rivulets of colour escaped from the ends and ran down her arms and the shower screen, like the veins of the world reflecting the bright sky on a clear day. She imagined the network of rivers and creeks and springs that connected everything around the globe, making life possible, carrying pieces of other continents. It put her bad day into perspective. All around the world, other humans, other life forms, relied on this same water, moved and changed to rhythms they never even noticed. It had been an especially awful day, though, beginning with the failure of her messy bun. How others achieved the sense of casual, scruffy beauty that was expected in this hairstyle was really beyond Kim. Which was problematic, given that Kim was a trainee hairdresser. Her own messy buns fluctuated between being a bird's nest that looked like she slept on it in a rubbish skip, and turning into an overly tight onion top with scraggly roots reaching uncertainly for the sky. Today, when she'd finally given up and left for work, it had been of the scraggly onion variety. On arrival at the salon, her first customer had wanted what Kim's boss quietly called the seagull poo do, a risky layering of ash colour and bleach that always resulted in bird-dropping-like stripes. Kim thought she'd survived the experience of creating this look, and was blow-drying with the round-shaping brush to straighten the woman's hair and create some volume, misting with a light coat of hairspray, noticing too late that everything was getting just a little bit staticky. Suddenly, the bristles of the brush were wrapped so firmly in the sticky strands that the customer appeared to have grown an odd brush-shaped antenna, and Kim had to stall while terrified, she attempted to extract the brush from the woman's bleach and ash streaks. The side of the hairdo became somewhat matted in the process, making it stick out asymmetrically, and Kim was obliged to dampen it and comb it out centimetre by centimetre, while the woman's expression became increasingly dour. Her second customer for the day sidled in, looking embarrassed and scared, her tight curls surrounding her face in such a square fashion that they made her resemble a clipped poodle. Rescue jobs were a frequent part of the role at the salon, but it was always a challenge to fix such disasters, especially when the customers inclined to complain profusely about the previous hairdresser, which, once she was reassured and provided with a cup of tea and a shampoo, this one was. Kim endured her rant with great empathy and patience as she attempted to make something more appropriate in shape for the human species from the perm-tight curls. It really was amazing, the impact the appearance of a person's hair could have on them. After all, the same face was still framed by the locks, regardless of their colour, shape or elasticity. That was, unless you'd been the unlucky recipient of a training day eyebrow waxing job as well. Kim had seen a lot of red, hairless foreheads or strangely angular brows in her time. Yet it was undeniable that someone with newly styled, super cool hair, or well-carried lack of any, had an immediate air of confidence and an expectation of positive experiences that could change their lives, until it grew out again. And someone who felt that their hair did not flatter them tended to experience, well, the opposite. On a good day for a hairdresser, this was the reason you did the job, and you'd send away a series of customers, walking with a little more pride in their step, smiling and generally looking like someone they'd like to meet. On a bad day, it was the reason you felt like you'd wounded someone, even if you hadn't accidentally clipped their ear, which actually happened more often than you'd think. This afternoon had been one of those bad days for Kim. Not because she'd sliced an ear, or accidentally used the wrong shears and made someone's style inches shorter than they'd wanted. Not even, in fact, through any fault of her own. But because the power had gone out. Kim had been, at that moment, about to make the second stroke with the electric clippers on the head of a man who'd decided it was time he turned his unruly mid-neck locks into a short-cropped army-style buzz. The first stroke she'd made was neatly up the centre of the scalp, and thus, when the lights had flickered and everything powered down from busy buzzing to tiled silence, her customer was in possession of a kind of reverse mohawk, and there was nothing to be done about it, except offer the horrified man a refund and send him over to the salon in the next suburb, hiding what in some might have rapidly become the latest fashion, beneath Anita the head stylist's beanie. With no lights, hairdryers or clippers working, there was nothing to be done but cancel the afternoon's remaining appointments, close the salon, and await the electrician, who called back to say they could no longer attend until the morning, and everyone was sent home, having lost the rest of the day's tips and several salon customers who refused to wait. Kim ran her fingers through her own colourful locks, working out the last of the deep conditioner in a pale blue glacier of thickened water. A strand of her hair twisted itself around one of her rings and pulled out with a twinge and an elastic snap. Kim closed her eyes in patience. It was probably time she tried to extract the mat that had doubtless formed in the plug hole. She knelt down in the bottom of the old bathtub and attempted to gain some purchase on the few strands that hung slimily over the drain struts. This took some time, her fingers losing their grip repeatedly and bouncing uncomfortably off the indent into which the drain was set. After a great deal of fumbling, her fingers somehow kept a grip on the fine, slimy threads and drew them towards her. As they emerged from the drain, they drew with them what at first seemed to be a small tangle, but it just kept coming, and coming, and coming. Kim pulled back, and back, and back, until finally, with a deep slurping sound, there burst forth an enormous sea monster of tangled blue and green deep ocean grime, waving its hairy tentacles at her in menacing evil. Kim hurriedly deposited the drain creature into the bin, ran to the tap, and wiped down the bathtub. She climbed out, wrapped herself in a navy towel, and texted her friend Andre. Day from hell. Friday night drinks? She put the phone down on the sink and transferred the towel to her hair, gently patting at the vibrant tangle. Her phone buzzed and threatened to dive sinkward. With Maidstone mysteries? Andre had asked. Kim rolled her eyes. She couldn't fathom how such a logical, meticulous person could suspend disbelief about the number of strange occurrences in one tiny town. But if Andre could have his fictional ghost town, then she could have the family's famous Calvados, which was a good compromise. So she sent back, okay. Andre arrived half an hour later to Kim in her tracksuit pants and hoodie, and left his slip-on flats in the hallway, padding inside in his socks with the bottle of Calvados in one hand and some chocolates in the other, which Kim frowned at. They're not from me, Andre assured her quickly. Lee from work sent them, which was a bit weird, actually. I was like, what are your intentions? But he just sort of ignored me and insisted I bring them. Kim snorted. You asked Lee what his intentions were? Who are you, my great-uncle? She took the chocolates in much the way one would take a used tissue or a bath drain monster, and set them down on the kitchen counter. I don't want to think about that right now. She turned back to Andre. What are your intentions with that Calvados? Once they were both settled on the couch, drinks in hand and some crisps Kim had found at the back of the larder on the coffee table, Andre whirled the drink in his wineglass and said, So, want to tell me about the day from hell? Not really, said Kim, and then proceeded to describe the entire thing in gory detail, down to the strange lumpy hair follicles on reverse Mohawk man's head. Oh, and then I found Nessy the drain nest hair monster in the shower plug hole, she concluded, sticking out her tongue in a gag face. You'd think I'd have to be bold by now to have lost all that in a week. Andre smiled sympathetically, topping up her glass. Ah, sea monsters. Intriguing things. It wouldn't be a good monster if you could work out how it got there. Nessy only has a sense of mystery because she lurks, rarely seen, in a place she couldn't merely wander into. Kim took a sip and nodded thoughtfully, the day's concerns ebbing suddenly away as though under a current. Water has such a sense of mystery all to itself, though, doesn't it? A big body of it seems penned in somehow, is bound to prompt intrigue. Andre pondered this, looking into the depths of some red wine. Yes, so much so that we have all these old stories of what is underneath lakes or under the sea. My favourite is the legend of Ys. Do you know it? Kim wrapped both hands around her glass and leaned forward, shaking her head. Well, there was a princess named Dahut who loved the sea. So the king built a city on the coast for her, below sea level, but protected by a huge gate that was only raised to let ships in at low tide. Dahut, however, had a lover, and she decided drunkenly one night to let her lover in for a secret banquet, but it was high tide, and when she opened the gate, the sea came in and flooded the whole city. I like to imagine that when the water rose high enough, the gate would have pushed closed again, separating the East City Lake from the sea. Kim swallowed some more wine. Lucky I'm not in charge of any city gates, she giggled. They sound like my darned boots. One-way waterproof. Somehow the water gets in when it's not supposed to, and then it can't get out. She froze. That's great. One-way waterproof. Andre rose his eyebrows and waited to be told why. For the band. Andre blew a raspberry. Oh no, Kim, I thought we were giving up on that. You know Lee can't drum in time when you're in the room, and we haven't even got a guitar player. He put his wine glass down, the better to spread his hands emphatically. Surely you don't want to spend any more awkward rehearsal attempts in my work friend's company. But Kim lay back against the sofa cushions, eyes focused far away, the number of drinks she had consumed already too much for her compact size. For this hit song, telling the tale of a lost city, any struggle is worthwhile. Andre sighed. Surely you can't sing a legend and avoid cliches. Baby, you were one way waterproof. Love weren't worth it. Oh, let the waters in too soon. Get me some paper. Kim rolled off the couch, plonking herself cross-legged on the carpet. We need 100 paper boats. What? Why? I thought you were going to write down the lyrics. Kim rolled her eyes at him. Keep up! We're going to release it with an amazing music video. And in the video, right, I'll be covered in this deluge of paper boats as I'm singing, right, to represent how the city ends up under the sea. Come on, we have to start folding. Evening wore on into early morning greyness, and a sense that time had slowed down descended like softly shifting sand as the wine and the calvados dwindled, and pizza came and went, and the two friends lay on the carpet, folding all the paper in the house into boats of all shapes and sizes. Presently, Kim said, Right, good. Now, I must write it down. Get me a pen. Andre looked around. There's no paper left. Oh. Get my laptop then, I'll type it in a Google Doc. They crawled about the floor, trying to identify where the laptop was under all the paper that was spread across the room. Andre pulled it triumphantly from under the coffee table. Kim powered it up and launched Google. What's my password? Andre lay down on the floor, flat on his back. How would I know? Kim huffed and puffed a bit. I can't get into Google. Office. There was a long, drifty silence. Oh, what? There's a password on my Microsoft account now. She looked around wildly and caught sight of her battered acoustic guitar leaning against the wall across the room. The neighbours didn't seem very friendly in the weeks afterwards. Kim wasn't sure why, and Andre couldn't say either. According to them both, magic happened that night as Kim sat on the floor and golfed in paper boats and plucked at the old guitar. She wrote the best song either of them had ever heard. On Saturday afternoon, Kim awoke in bed, fully clothed in her Friday night drinks attire. She wandered groggily into the living room, her feet pushing at waves of paper on the floor. Andre was asleep on her couch, a squished paper shape stuck behind one ear. Her laptop and guitar lay haphazardly on the carpet amongst the paper shapes. Kim felt a vague sense of urgency as she looked at them. One way waterproof, she whispered. It seemed a very strange phrase now, hanging on the back of her tongue, as though she'd been singing it only moments before. Maybe she'd type this thing out? She opened her computer and turned it on, sitting on the arm of the couch so as not to wake Andre. She typed the login code. Blink. Oh my god. Andre? Replied Andre. Andre, I've reset all the passwords. She opened and closed the laptop's lid in panic, hoping it would magically revert to her previous login, and all this would turn out to be a bad dream. But no luck. Andre looked blearily around at the paper and then up at her. Do you remember any of that song you were singing? Kim looked down at him miserably and shook her head. What on earth are we going to do with all these boats? Andre shrugged and sighed. Make some kind of friendship collage or a wreath of boats, perhaps, he muttered. Then he paused, looking intently at her, and nodded at her head. Kim froze. What? Andre nodded towards the mirror. Let's go and look at your hair. Kim made her way over to see her reflection, her stomach tying into knots. She raised her head very slowly. Oh! She laughed and spread her hands in wonder. Looking back at her from the glass was, in woven seawater opal, a perfect messy bun.
That was well done.
So good. That's fantastic.
I have a drawer of paper boats.
Yeah. A few people might have areas in their house completely full of those.
Yes.
I've got one in my house. I've just got the one, but it sits on my desk.
Well, I've had a type of a electric razor, and Margaret goes, "Oh no!" When she did my hair once.
Just recently.
Yeah, that's right.
It had the number 3 on it.
Yeah, it was at number 3. I thought, number 3 will be fine. It gives it a bit. It's actually 3 millimeters, and that's a number 1. So it was really crew cut. Anyway.
Oh, no.
Right up. And I thought, you know, the one all over now.
Oh dear. Very short hair. Yeah, we saw. On a video chat, and Lloyd said, "Where's Dad's hair? He's had a fight with a lawnmower."
I liked too when you said the thing when you got to the bit where she realised she'd reset all her passwords, and it's great because of course she would have written all the new ones while drunk and then could not been able to remember any of them.
Yeah,
that's terrible. It's totally a thing that would happen.
Yeah.
Well, so like, bad.
I've essentially had that experience like when I was trying to get like the CD cases printed and stuff, and I was still really jet lagged, and I was sort of in a hurry, and I was like anxious about it, and I was rushing the task, and I kept on coming to things I had to log into and being like, I don't know, and like the inclination is just to reset them then and because you can't get in and you would need to get in quickly and do whatever you're trying to do, but then if you do that, chances are you have no idea what you reset it to later because you sort of did it in that like a moment of not really with it. Yeah. Yes. Before this ends, and then I'll set us a new one so we can have a bit more of a just casual chat, but are there any requests for next time while I actually have them on record? Done hair.
The colour blue.
The colour blue.
Anything blue.
Loneliness.
Okay. That goes pretty well with the colour blue.
Yeah.
That's true.
All right.
Mirrors.
Ooh.
Mirrors.
I like mirrors. Okay.
Surprises.
Ew. Surprises.
Yeah.
Alright, that's a good
You're
start.
not saying anything.
That sounds like an interesting story. Okay, and so for those of you who are watching this later, if you want to request anything additional, you can type it in a comment on this wherever you see the video, and we'll look forward to writing something on those. we're going to all go now so we can chat in a relaxed fashion.
Okay.
Yeah, we're goodbye to video people.
Bye.
See ya!